Hi, I'm Clay Washington, president of the Kennard Alumni Association. We're here at the Kennard High School, the original African-American high school here in Queen Anne's County. The portion we're standing in front of was built in 1936. Actually, the building started in 1935 with President Roosevelt's Works Progress Administration package. Back in that day, originally there was only I guess we call it a middle school now, okay, for African Americans. We only went up to like the 8th or 10th grade over on Old Liberty Street here in Centerville. And the parents wanted something direly for their kids to go to high school. So at that point, they got together, they raised enough money to buy this piece of land that the school sits on, and with the county's help and with the Works Progress Administration, we were able to build this section of the school. The original one-story portion was built in '36. We're entering what was once the front of the original school. If you look to the left, the original school built in 1936. Look to your right, the extension in 1947. We're moving down the hall for the original building that was built in 1936. On my right and on my left are what will be the men's and ladies' rooms. Now, in the original building, this was the original men's room, but the ladies' room was on the other end of the building. They didn't dare put the two of them that close together, the boys and the girls' rooms. So you were on opposite ends of the building. This was the original principal's office over here, which now will become the ladies' restroom. One of the things I want to show, the original wainscot is still in place. We've removed all of the lead paint. It will all be refinished, and what we can keep, we kept. We may have to replace some with new wainscot, but our goal was to keep as much of the original wainscot as possible. This room housed the main classrooms. If you look, the blackboards are still in place, and they will remain there. These two bifold doors, huge bifold doors, allowed them to have two classrooms, and when needed, a multi-purpose room. And their version of the auditorium when you open the doors. These are the original doors that were throughout the building. And what we did was we had them all dipped and lead paint removed. And at that point, all the fixtures were dipped in a special finish to take off all the old rust and the old paint. So they look new.
They look great.
And all these doors will be rehung in their original positions.
That's great. And those huge windows.
Huge windows. That's where the light came from. What I want you to look at is these original windows, because they provided the light for the school. They're oversized windows. Some of you may remember the Rosenwald schools, the original schools built through Mr. Rosenwald, who was with Sears and Roebuck. He decided there needed to be schools for African Americans, so they built about 5,000 schools, I think it was, throughout the East Coast and some of the Midwest. And those schools were kind of fashioned like this one. This school was kind of fashioned after them because there was no electricity, so they had to have big windows for light during the day. We took over this building in 1996. The Queen Anne's County Commissioners gave it to us on a 99-year lease. At that point in time, we did a little grassroots fundraising, and in 2005, we were able to stabilize the building because there was a lot of deterioration. The building hadn't been used since the early 70s, and it was starting to, the roof was caving in, there was some water damage and dry rot, and in order to stem that flow, we did put a new roof on the building. We did some what's called lead abatement inside. We tore up the old floors, the old asphalt tiles on the floor, and we did just some shoring up so it wouldn't get any worse. We weren't able to raise enough money to do anything else other than that as an association, because most of the money we raised was from chicken dinners and potluck affairs. You notice there are original radiators in this building. Of course, it was steam heat, radiator heat, hot water heat throughout this building. We, of course, now will not have that heat, that kind of heat, but we will keep these radiators as a memory of what this building looked like when they were here. This also was a classroom. We call it the little classroom because it was so small that when the kids got in it, there wasn't really room for the teacher to teach. So what she did, because that teacher is still on our advisory board today. Her name is Madeline Hollis. And most people in Centerville know who Miss Hollis is. But Miss Hollis would she said once you put a lesson on the board, she'd have to stand back here and teach the lesson. Because if she didn't, and she turned her back to the students, that her rear would be on somebody's desk. But every square inch of this building was used to educate our children. The unfortunate thing for us is I don't have one picture of what this interior of this building looked like. I'm still begging for one. So if anybody out there, when you see this, has a picture of the interior of this original school, please contact me. So in 2007, I was able to come back. I came back to the shore, and I kind of took over the reins of the association because I'd had some experience in development with some other nonprofits. And at that point, we applied for our first major grant to really start this restoration process, to create a resource for Queen Anne's County, a cultural center that paid tribute to the heritage of African Americans here in the county, and also a small museum that would tell our story, because it really is not getting told anywhere else. So at that point, in 2008, we received a $100,000 grant from the Maryland Heritage Authorities. We had saved about $100,000. We had built that up over the years, enough to get started. So in 2010, we started the restoration process that you're looking at right now. The whole exterior was torn off, and we put on a new exterior. We actually restored the windows you're looking at. We could not replace them. There's what's called an easement on this building because it's an historic property. And at that point, that became a real labor of love. They had all been taken off premises, dipped because of the lead content in the paint, and at that point, brought back and replaced. So that process took some time, it took some due diligence, and it cost a lot of money. A lot more than we anticipated. We anticipated replacing these windows. But at that point, I'm glad we didn't, because we maintained the same integrity, the same look that this building had when it was initially built in 1936. We're going to put storm windows on these. That will give us some more efficiency in terms of heating and air conditioning. In 1947, the section we're standing in front of now was added to the original building to create 2 more classrooms, a new principal's office, and what's called a rainy day room downstairs. So when they couldn't go outside to play, they could play inside. And they had some exercise classes and things like that down there, and more storage. But the intent was to add more classrooms so we could, as student population grew here in the county. I think by then we had like 200 and some students and about 12 teachers in this building. Same principal, by the way, from when it was the original high school on Liberty Street. He started over there, Mr. Larry Jones. He became the principal here. And if you roll the camera around, there's this brick building on the other side of his lot. This is the new Kennard High School, erected in 1951. And he became the principal of that school until it closed as Kennard High School in 1966 when the schools were integrated. And there was a new county high school. These were the 2 classrooms that were added. Big classrooms, good sized classrooms.
Same big windows.
Same big windows. By the way, electricity was added shortly after this school opened in '36. And I'll tell you how they got the electricity added. They sold jelly and chickens and whatever they had to do to get electricity put in this building. The parents and the town and area were responsible for the electricity being added. In 1947, of course, this portion was added, and this became the principal's office. And you can see the time clock is still sitting here. And when we first moved into this building, the bell was still operating, the class bell that could be rung from this office. Our vision for this school is that it become a county, really a county resource for the underserved portion of our county, to be able to provide them with mentoring, tutoring, and cultural programs that will grow them up that they'd have to pay for otherwise. We've grown so large that we cannot provide all of the cultural and educational resources that we once held dear. And some of that is history, number one. So we're going to also provide in this building a small classroom museum that will chronicle the African American history here in Queen Anne's County, as well as the history of this high school. That's what we're really going to be most proud of. This will be the museum classroom. And we kind of chose this room because of that cabinet over in the corner. We surmise, and we don't have any pictures or any proof to tell of this, that this was a science classroom at some point, and then they would keep their equipment in that cabinet over there. We have formed a museum committee to come up with a design for this room and for the halls, each side of the halls out there in the main hall, because the main hall will also be part of the history of the building and of the area. But we want to tell stories of watermen, of farmers, of teachers, of anything that represented how we helped build, we as African Americans helped build this community. We also have in the can, what I call in the can, recorded history, some people who actually went to the school. We've been working on that project since 2009, I think it was. We have about 20 in the can. And we will present these in some form. We haven't figured it out yet. I want them to be able to see and hear the actual person telling the story of what it meant to go to the school. We hopefully will be able to get that added as part of the curriculum for the Queen Anne's County school system, where 3rd and 4th graders can come visit this and see how that school grew, how it grew into the Kennard Elementary School that it is today, especially those kids over there. They become kind of an extension of us. In conclusion now, we want this building to be a resource for the citizens of Queen Anne's County, young and old alike. Our vision is to have programs that cater to both adults and children. Children in the case of mentoring, after-school study programs, programs in what's called the STEM system, meaning science, technology, engineering, and math. We want to have some tutelage in that. We want to be able to help with kids' homework. Okay, if they don't have a place to go in the afternoon, we want to give them a safe place to be, to work on their homework and to recreate. It will also be a community center resource for all kinds of events. There will be a kitchen here, okay, a warming kitchen for people to bring in food and have events here in the building. We will also create cultural programs, meaning dance, music, theater. We want to bring all that in, as well as our museum, which will tell our history and heritage of African Americans here in the county. We want to do all of this, but we can't do any of this without the help of the community. We're a nonprofit, which means we don't make any money, but we do provide a resource, and those resources sometimes take funding. So we ask the community for donations. We have a website and we have a Facebook page where you can go on and you can donate right on those pages, or you can send in your donation to the Kennard Alumni Association, P.O. Box 213, Centerville, Maryland, 21617. And if anybody's interested in volunteering or becoming a resource for this project, they can contact me, Clayton Washington, at our number at 443-239-2110. We'd be glad to take you on as a partner. Thank you.